Hi, Jalaj. Thank you so much for giving us your time to interview you. For the viewers, may we request you to please share your journey and your story in your own words?
Thank you for the opportunity to have me here, and it's a great pleasure to come in here and talk to everyone. So my journey so far, I started my career with Honeywell as an engineering consultant, and I was working initially as an engineer, where I was responsible for individual work streams, but slowly and gradually I started managing projects on my own. And that experience was really, one of the more formative part of my professional self
Mm-hmm.
because I was helping clients in a lot of different countries just manage the landscape of the energy industry that, there's constantly changes that are happening due to the regulations around the emission norms and everything.
Right.
So, but honestly, like the whole thing was that I really enjoyed that stuff. I really enjoyed the fact that I had a positive impact on my clients' business, and that was something that I really wanted to do, even after I did an MBA or any master's education for that matter. But at that time, I also wanted to understand the broader business context of things,
Right.
and that was sort of my cue to do the MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so ever since I came in here at Rotman, I've basically been focusing on learning about those different elements that my clients in making those decisions.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, and I've had the opportunity to apply some of those learnings in a lot of different industries right now. But overall, I feel the MBA experience has been very wholesome. There's been it is a journey. And it is sort of like a marathon. It is not a 100-meter sprint that you get done with it and get exhausted. You have to have a steady pace. You have to have a steady goal in mind
Right.
because there will be a lot of ups and downs, perhaps more downs than ups.
Okay.
But in the end, you have to sort of cruise through it, and it helps when you have that, that sort of a motivation inside you, and also the discipline to sort of show up every day and just, do it. Get done with it. So I think that's sort of what I've realized over this period.
Mm-hmm.
And so just to cap off my journey with, Rotman. So post Rotman, I'm looking to go into tech consulting.
Right.
So that's how the journey has been so far, and I aspire to sort of grow my career within consulting because I mentioned that I've always enjoyed being part of teams where we do something meaningful for the client. So I think that's my main motivation to pursue that career.
Right. Okay. That's quite interesting. So, in your opinion, what were a few factors or actions you took that made all the difference?
Yeah, for sure. I think when it came down to the specifically the admissions process and just thinking about MBA as a career ladder in a way. So more like an escalator than a ladder. But um, the way I was thinking about it was, I think one of the things in hindsight that I did well was perhaps getting enough face time with the adcoms.
All right.
And this is something I felt that it really helped them put a face to the application that they received from me. Because as if you think from a perspective of an adcom, they'll be receiving like thousands of applications.
Absolutely.
And if they can put a face to any application, it just helps. So I think that was something that I made a conscious decision to leave office that day and just go and see these people because I think that it was pre-COVID time, so they were able to just come into Gurgaon and I was able to go and meet them at the hotel, have a coffee with them, and it was a really nice experience. And they also sort of got to know me a little bit more
Right.
beyond the papers.
All right.
The yeah. The second thing was just asking myself constantly this question like, do I want to put in the money, the energy, the time, because there's an opportunity cost with the MBA for 2 years when I won't be earning, so there's definitely that opportunity cost. But are you willing to put in that investment?
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, it's there's a pause for 2 years, but then at the end of those 2 years, there's certainly a larger return on the investment. And I'm talking in the MBA spiel right now, but that is what you probably as you go through it, you'll realize that these things do play out in that sense.
Right.
And I guess finally, and most people might not agree with this, or at least some people might not agree with this, but I personally feel that applying in the earlier rounds is definitely, improving your probability of either getting accepted or getting a good scholarship
That's true.
within an institution. I think all credit to like EG or Experts Global that you guys were definitely on there to remind me that your deadlines are approaching and you need to be quick with this. So I think that those are probably the things that I feel went, which I did, and went in my favor
Okay.
during the process.
Oh, that's really nice. So, with the benefit of hindsight, what are a few mistakes you believe you committed in the process?
Yeah, I think there's definitely anything, and yeah, you're right. With the benefit of hindsight, you can obviously tell these things. But I think one of the things was that I was not very proactive with my GMAT initially, because, and I took about 1.5 years just to prepare for the GMAT.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not because I wasn't getting the scores that I wanted. It's just that things kept getting in the way. Either it was work sometimes it was some sort of a client meeting,
All
or
right.
some family occasions. Things just kept getting in the way, and then at some point I had to sort of realize to put a hard stop on these things and focus specifically on my GMAT preparation. I wish I would have done that earlier, so that I would have had more time, just post MBA. But now, what's done is done. And I just realized as a result of that, that you need to be clear about the goals and also sort of put in the required work. And this is what I'm talking about, the MBA exactly teaches you this in a very specific way, and it's called the grind for a reason, because you'll have to show up every day. You'll have goals, deadlines, assignments, all sorts of those things. But they're designed in a specific way to teach you about discipline, to teach you about how to manage your time, how to manage time, not just your own time, but also the time of your team, because it's not just you who has personal responsibilities, but your team also has personal responsibilities.
Right,
So
right.
those are the kind of things I think, and I feel like I could have done that one a little bit better. Apart from that, I just feel that initially also when I was like approaching my GMAT, I was a preparation. I was not approaching it strategically.
Okay.
And by strategically, I mean I wasn't at regular intervals checking in. What level am I at? So I
All
took
right.
the diagnostic test. I know what my initial level was, but then I did not take any of those intermediate checks, which I should have. So I think that's something that I feel is very important when you're doing the GMAT
All right.
preparation.
Okay. So, going back to your GMAT preparation phase, what were the main resources you used, and what advice will you give to the future aspirants?
Yeah, sure. So the main resources that I used, I guess definitely one of the main ones was the official guidebook.
Right.
I think that's the one I started off with.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I took the diagnostic test with them, got an understanding of where I was, on the whole, what was my level in terms of the GMAT performance, and I got a decent score. But it wasn't enough to get me through where I was looking to go into.
Okay.
And that was one of the resources. The second resource I had was definitely a lot of the GMAT club. They had a lot of questions of the day and stuff like that.
Right.
I did take some self-study courses, just to appraise myself of specific concepts in the vocab side, or try the
Mm-hmm.
English side of things. Right?
Right.
So that was the one.
Okay.
Finally, and this was the period when I was not approaching my GMAT very strategically.
Okay.
Um, what I realized was that I needed to have those checks and balances in place, which made sure that my score was actually going to increase, and that's when Export Global's those mock test series came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to promote anything, but that is one thing that I've been very open about, that's probably one of the best that you have out there on the market,
Mm-hmm.
for the simple reason that they have, they are very specifically designed in terms of how you would see an actual GMAT exam. And I remember taking those for about 2 weeks, and my score jumped by like 20 to 30 points. And then that was purely because of the fact that it was so much, the exact feel of the exam is very much like that of the GMAT. And just, like how the actual exam would feel like and how you would actually perform. So it's very representative of the actual GMAT.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I guess, the final resource I had. But yeah, I guess those three or four resources is what I mainly used.
Okay.
And I guess my advice, since you asked about that one, is definitely to approach GMAT preparation very strategically,
Mm-hmm.
or have those checks and balances in place to understand where you are in terms of your preparation. Because then, say if you have a target score of 750 that you want to have,
Mm-hmm.
then you want to make sure that you're growing accordingly, and also reviewing your errors to see what areas or what concepts are the ones where you're still lacking,
Right.
and then sort of reinforcing those, and continuing to practice what you already are good at, So that's the strategic element of GMAT prep that I think every applicant should try to follow.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. So, what would you like to say about your experiences and learnings from managing your application timeline?
Yeah, I think that's again, that was one of my main challenges as well because I mentioned I was preparing for GMAT for 1.5 years because of a lot of different reasons. But when it comes to managing timelines, I think one of the advice EG gave me or Experts Global gave me was that apply for the same round in all, or at least during the same period for all the applications. That way you don't have to wait up for, a specific school's decision in order to decide what you decide on what you already have.
Right.
And that played out well because towards the end of it, I had interview invites from 2, 3 schools.
Oh,
And
okay. That's nice.
by that time had honestly gotten to Rotman already.
Okay.
And I was really considering whether I should apply for those. And my main aim was Rotman. I was really thinking whether I should really go in for the interview invites for those schools or not. So I politely decided to decline those interview invites
Okay.
and go ahead with that. But I think the main aim was that you want to apply definitely early in the
Mm-hmm.
earlier rounds in the at least the first round maybe, and
Right.
at the same time apply together in all of those. And I think what also sort of helped me with the whole process was just on the managing the entire process was the fact that there was someone there to help me, through EG, and I was able to sort of lean on them to get some updates on how should I approach this, or this application is approaching how, and I honestly realized that you guys had a very quick turnaround in terms of how frequently the responses came in, and it was a very smooth process, very honestly. And I don't like to, as I mentioned, I'm not specifically talking about any specific product, but
Mm-hmm.
just giving a very sort of unbiased opinion on what I felt about the whole process, and it was really smooth, in all honesty.
That's really nice. And we're glad that it was very smooth and it all worked out for you in a very nice way. So, would you like to describe your interview experience with the B School?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, my interview experience with the B school was much simpler than I had thought, and that was because of I think 2 rounds of interview with the Experts Global.
Okay.
So I remember my first round of interview with I'm forgetting the name of the person I interviewed with at Experts Global, but
Okay.
so it was a mock interview, of course. So they gave me certain questions in terms of around leadership, around how my experience will play out in defining my career post MBA, or how will that help me just go through the MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled. I was struggling. I was not able to articulate my thoughts properly. I was not able to develop any probing insights which might help them realize that, okay,
Mm-hmm.
yes, this guy has some content there. But and then I got the sort of the commensurate feedback according to that.
All right.
And that feedback was very helpful. The second round of interview that I had, the mock interview, and by that time I had made sure that I'd taken that feedback seriously. I was working on what was important,
Mm-hmm.
and the second mock interview went much smoother. It was,
Okay.
and I remember the person from Experts Global say that you're ready now. Don't worry. And I had my Rotman interview, I think 2 or 3 days later,
All right.
2 or 3 days after that mock interview. And the person said that to me, and that was a huge boost in my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So when the day came and when I actually had to sit in front of the Rotman AdCom for the interview, it felt like a breeze. It was not, I honestly didn't feel like I was being pressured, or I didn't feel that it was, a lot of, I was nervous or anything, because I'd just gone through those rounds of interview prep with EG, and I was confident in my ability, and I was also confident that another human being could make sense of what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a huge boost. And when it came to talking with the AdCom at Rotman, it honestly felt like conversation. I think due credit to them as well that they made me feel at ease. But yeah, I think honestly it was really great. It just the interview experience overall, and
Oh.
receiving the admit at the end of it. I was really happy to
Oh.
have
Mm.
have chosen Experts Global as for the interview prep and everything.
Oh, that's amazing. We're just happy to know that your interview experience was so smooth. So, can you tell us more about your MBA experience?
Yeah, so the MBA experience, and most people would, I want to say, agree with the fact that it's more of a marathon than a sprint, and you have to have that goal in mind in terms of why do you want to do this? Because if that clarity is not there, then when you hit when they say where the rubber meets the road, when that happens, there's gonna be a lot of self-questioning, self-doubt. And to avoid that, it's important to know that this is the case with everyone. The MBA programs are designed to be, very intensive. They are designed to sort of challenge you. If they were a breeze, then, they're just not supposed to be a breeze because they won't be preparing you for anything if they were.
Right.
And the real world is going to be like that, where you would have multiple deadlines, where you would have multiple stakeholders.
So, what would you like to say about the job search experience during the MBA, and what tips would you give to the future candidates?
Yeah, so I guess jobs during the MBA is a whole different ball game,
Hmm.
considering two or three facts. The first one being that you are trying to develop a network, and especially if you're doing an MBA, outside your home country, then trying to develop a network which is brand new from scratch. So
Okay.
yes, the B school helps with that. The
Hmm.
B school has, because of its own pre-established brand or because of its alumni network, you sort of have access to that network,
Hmm.
and that helps. But leveraging that network is very important when you're doing that job search. And it's not specifically for job search. I want to say I personally don't like to connect with people just to say that your company has a job, and you're a Rotman alumni, so just let me have a chat with you, and I want you to refer me. No, I don't believe in that kind of philosophy.
Right.
I want to have more of a relationship building idea.
Okay.
I want to, have and I really want to understand what their role is, what is the kind of work they're doing.
Hmm.
And I think one of the things that some aspirants that I've talked to, what they tend to believe is that, if they don't get into Harvard, or if they don't get into, Yale, SOM, or if they don't get into MIT, Sloan,
Hmm.
they they are doomed.
Oh, okay.
And that is not the case. And the same ideology kind of carries over into their selection of companies.
Right.
If you don't get into an MBB, you are doomed. No, it's not like that.
Hmm.
And you should not approach job search like that. It is, if the MBA is a marathon, the life after MBA, your entire, career that you are spanning is a different kind of a marathon. It's probably, it's definitely longer than that one. So I think during that, the key things that help during the job search is definitely not leveraging that network,
Hmm.
but also growing that network in a more purposeful way, not because you want that job, but
Right.
because you really want to know what the other person is doing. You really want to see whether what they are doing, can you do that every day? Would you enjoy doing that every day? And so that was sort of the approach that I wanted to take.
Oh,
Um, and and secondly, I guess, just also understanding what the school has to offer.
right.
Again, some aspirants have this tendency to believe that if it's in the top 10,
Hmm.
I'll be a CEO when I graduate the MBA program. It is not like that. The actual value of an MBA you realize probably 10 years later, 5 to 10 years after you've graduated the MBA program, when you are looking at those leadership positions.
Hmm.
5 years later, in that period when you've just graduated of an MBA, out of an MBA program, you're still going to be doing a lot of mid-level management to senior level management work.
Yeah.
But getting into that C-suite, unless you start your own company and are like hugely successful at it,
Hmm.
I doubt that there's going to be some sort of direct movement into the C-suite right after the MBA. But here again, so the point I was trying to make was that just understand what the strengths of the school are. Don't go just by, okay, so go by the brand name of the school. Brand names are important. I'm not going to lie about that. Brand names they are important, but also what is important is what are the resources that the school is providing.
Okay.
If the school is providing a lot of resources focusing on finance, and you want to go into, let's say, marketing
Mm.
or consulting for that matter, then whatever the school, you are 100% going to be dissatisfied with what the school is providing, and then you will, it just won't be a favorable deal for either you or the school, because the school now has someone in their ranks who just doesn't agree with everything the school is doing.
Right.
So that would be the second thing. And I guess finally, yeah, just keeping an open mind. It is a tough process for most people. There are some prodigies out there for whom might be a breeze. I personally don't know anyone, but perhaps there are.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge, and you have to rise up to that challenge. You have to keep an open mind. You have to take it one step at a time. Rejections, lows, and these kind of troughs are part of the process, but not the idea is not to get bogged down by it. Just keep picking yourself up and keep moving forward. And you'll realize that this is how the evolution or the development that we talk about, leadership development, self development, because that's also sort of the cell of the MBA, right? This is where it happens.
Absolutely.
This is where it will happen, and this is where you'll sort of realize that things are changing, that you're growing and you've improved. So yeah, that would be my. I don't want to say advice. None of this is advice in any way, but this is just my experience, and I'm just telling, just trying to convey that this could be, if you this is something that you could learn from if you want to, but I don't like to give advice to anyone because everyone has a very different journey.
All right, okay. No, but I'm sure you're like a lot of students will actually learn a lot from your experience. It has been quite inspiring and wholesome. So, how do you think the entire pre-application phase and the MBA journey has actually contributed to your growth?
So talking about the pre-application first, I think what was very important for the application process was, when you're sitting down in front of the interview panel, or you're just trying to write the essays, you don't want to write a half-baked essay. You don't want to have something that doesn't have a convincing story to it, that doesn't have the right tone of voice, that doesn't have that's just not reflective of who you are. And you need to sit down with yourself to really go deep and understand, what is it? What happened during this story? Why did I behave like this? Why did I feel that I wanted to, even though this was so challenging, why did I feel that I had to pull this off? What was the driver behind that? And I remember that, EG sends this, back then, you guys sent me a sort of a questionnaire. It had like 27 odd questions, and I had to sit down and, go through all these questions and think about the stories and develop answers on them. And that process, I know EG gave me about like a week for that one, but I took 2 good weeks to just, sit down and really think hard about those questions. And that process itself was like so important, I feel, because it just opened up some of the areas in my experience or in my journey that I had just never thought about.
Right.
And that was very important. That sort of gave me, very good picture about who I truly was and what my goals, whether I was aligned with my goals or not. And I feel that's very important. If you don't know who you are, it's very hard for you to define what your goals are. So that part, I think that pre-application stage was very important. And again, like the tools that EG gave me for that one, I think those tools were really instrumental in that approach. For the second thing during the MBA, it's going to be a lot of things. So there is definitely you learn to, manage people, the stakeholder management piece. That is very, that's something, it's like a muscle. It's not something that you read about and now how to, manage people. Managing people is more like a muscle, and it takes time, it takes effort. And MBA has ample opportunities for that. You'll be playing for pretty much every course you take. You'll have a group, and your grade depends on how the group performs. And because it's a flat hierarchy, you can't really go in and tell anyone that, hey, Deekshita, you have to do this, and if you don't do this, then I'll not give you a proper rating. That's not the case. I have to persuade you, I have to convince you that doing this is important and important for our mutual benefit.
Absolutely.
So you understand these kind of things when you are put in these situations. There's a lot more people skills that you develop, and I think that's something that has been. I want to say that's been a bit of the main thing that's come out of this MBA program for me. The second thing is probably the leadership skills. Most people think about leadership very differently before coming into the MBA. When you step into the MBA, Rotman has a fantastic thing called the Leadership Development Lab.
Oh, that's amazing.
You realize that leadership is not at all what you've probably thought of it to be. It is very different. It has a lot of humane elements to it, rather than just having that I want to win. I want to be ambitious. Yes, those are important, but
Mhm.
leadership is a lot more about humane things. So I think that's the other thing. And I guess finally, within the development piece, I want to think about just learning from my peers, because the cohort I'm part of has some really amazing people who've done some really amazing things in their life, and just learning from them. Though these guys have really aced a lot of things in their life. They are all sort of those type A people, I want to say, you know
Oh, yeah.
where the but yeah, so those guys have, and I think it's really great to just sit in the same rooms and in the same
Mhm.
groups and learn from them, because they are definitely there to contribute to, as am I there to contribute to their development and learning,
Mhm.
but so are they. So I think that part, the sooner you understand that, the better it is. So I think that's the probably the development piece from the pre-application and during the MBA phase.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Like, you've come a long way from
Yeah.
actually knowing and discovering things about yourself to completing your journey to success. It's quite inspiring. So, what would be your final message to all the viewers and the aspirants watching this video? And what are the few common mistakes you would ask all of them to avoid?
Yeah, so I guess my final message in a way would be to be very strategic about your MBA preparation or your GMAT preparation. That would be the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and that includes taking the required number of mock tests, just making sure that this is you're just making sure that you're growing and what are the areas of concern.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing would be to really understand yourself, your experiences at a more deeper level
Mm-hmm.
when you're preparing for applications, and definitely apply in the earlier rounds. And like, you guys can like cut this part off if you want to, but like I am pretty clear about the fact that people should try to apply in the earlier rounds.
Absolutely.
um, and I guess finally just realizing the fact that MBA is not a destination. MBA is, or the B school is not a destination. B school is a whole slew of journeys that begin with that. So
Right.
most people tend to fall for the trap that if I get into this school my life is set. No, that is not the case. You have to still go in there and put in a lot of work.
Right.
And if and the thing is that the better the school is,
Mhm.
it's also the fact the cohort is going to be equally as competitive. So even if you come in with the attitude that okay, I am special, that I've gotten in, now you see there are like 200 people exactly who are in the same place as you are, and they've done some really, really incredible things in their life.
Mhm.
So that sort of humbles you a little bit as well. But it is also important to not go into the path of self-doubt, but
Mhm.
also just realize that you are here to learn in a sort of cohesive manner.
Right.
So that would be my third piece of advice. And in terms of mistakes to avoid, again, just try to get some face time with the adcom if you can. I know it's during the COVID times it's going to be hard,
Mhm.
but if you don't do that, I would say that sort of it's just improving your probability. No one can tell you that you will get into a B school if you get a 780, or if you get your applications done by any XYZ person.
Mhm.
It's only about increasing your probability. The more boxes you check,
Mhm.
the more it increases your probability. That's the only thing. And I guess one final message to definitely avoid would be to not to think about, again, this whole process as something of a sprint that you can just get done with. It's a very self-reflective process. You're going to have to sit down with yourself, retrospect a lot, and try to bring out the best that has been. And it doesn't need to be that made your company a few $1 million. It doesn't have to be anything very big, very big or profound like that. But it has to be something meaningful that was important to you, and you decided to do it. So that those are the kind of things you need to focus on. I think that would be probably my final words of my final message. Again, not an advice. Everyone's free to follow what they want to, but yeah, I've just thrown out what I've just thrown out what's in my head right now, and everyone's free to pick up what they feel is right for them.
Absolutely. Your suggestions have actually been very helpful, and I'm sure like a lot of people will learn from your journey. So thank you so much for giving us your time, and again, congratulations. Because You have come such a long way, and your journey to success has been very, very inspiring. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me here.
Yes.
It was a
Okay.
pleasure talking to you.
Right. It was great talking to you. So thank you so much, and take care. Future as
Sure.
well.